Merry Christmas and welcome to my third and final Christmas-themed video game review of 2014. Home Alone's a great film, isn't it? With all that great slapstick humor, great writing by John Hughes, great acting by Catherine O'Hara, John Candy, and Macaulay Culkin before he found out what drugs were. It is the highest-grossing holiday film of all time. So there are several video game adaptations of it. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at the Super NES version. So let's pop this thing in and just get this review over with. So the game starts you off with one of the worst sounding renditions of the Home Alone theme there could ever be. Just take a listen to this. Not only does it not sound like the music in the film, it's not that good as a standalone song either. The title screen is pretty reminiscent of the film's opening though, which I guess is nice, if not a little bland though. The game starts off on Christmas Eve night. Harry and Marv show up to the McAllister house to break into it. Kevin, having just finished his mac and cheese dinner, sets traps and arms himself preparing for the break-in. Well, if someone's gonna break in, why doesn't he just call the police? Well, it's a video game, but to be fair, he never calls the police in the film either. So you start off in one of the bedrooms armed with nothing but a water pistol and your wits. The goal of this game is not much different than the film's climaxing point. You have to get the burglars to fall into traps, but in addition to that, you have to collect all of your family's valuables. What are your family's valuables? Well, candle holders, jewelry, money, electronics, toys, just a whole bunch of stuff. Once you've collected several artifacts, you merely drop them into a laundry chute so they land in the basement. I won't rag on this because considering how little there is to work with in terms of making a game based off this film, this actually strikes me as pretty creative. You also find pizza around the house that restores your health. Why Kevin would eat a piece of pizza he found in the bathtub, or a bathroom for that matter, is well beyond me. Progression of the game is simple. Go into every room in the house, avoid the robbers, find the valuables, and then drop them down the laundry chutes. That's it, and it's about as monotonous as it sounds. Once you've found a certain number of objects, keys will appear and let you enter different parts of the house. Okay, let's take a look at the bare basics of this game, starting with the control. Use the D-pad to move, no surprises there, the A button to jump, the B button to use your weapon, and the X and Y button to change your weapons, which this game has several of. A weak as crap water pistol, a slingshot, baseballs, and a rifle, which I don't think would fly in today's politically correct world. Getting back to the controls though, they're pretty average. Not great, but not bad. There are times when you feel hindered by them because of how loose they can feel at times. But this game isn't so exact that you really need solid control anyways. The one exception to this are the basement sections of the game, which are hard as hell and can eat my ass. The sections are early on in the game, and they take me a while to beat. Once you've lost 3 lives, you hear Kevin do that famous yell of his. And that's it, that's a game over. This ending's kinda scary. What exactly do Harry and Marv do with him? Kill him? You get the option to quit or continue. Okay, let's continue then. Well, it took me back to the beginning of the game. If all it does is take you back to the start of the game, that's not really continuing, is it? The option should say restart, not continue. That's right, if you want to beat Home Alone, you gotta do it in one sitting, in one shot. There are no codes to get to the levels, and the one cheat I did find online, which said to pause, press up, and then press select to give you invincibility, I could never get it to work. So I sat my arse down and played as carefully as I could, and luckily I beat it pretty quickly. I believe it was my 4th try or so even a person like me, who's not all that skilled at video games and plays them pretty casually, could beat it. I noticed something really pointless while playing. There's this one specific valuable that you have to slam on the ground like 20 times just to knock it off the table. You know what might have made this a little bit better? If I could just jump up on the table and get the freaking diamond ring. But no, there's an invisible barrier blocking me. So the house is broken up into wings. The first part of the house is pretty simple. You just collect all of the valuables, drop them down the chute, find the key, and then make your way downstairs into the basement. After you dodge like 100 rats and bats, You find a vault, then all the valuables you have get put into a vault for safekeeping. Kevin then spin jumps like Mario in Super Mario World, and then you move on to the next part of the house, which I guess is the toy wing because of all the valuables in this part of the house just so happen to be toys. Throughout the game you encounter Harry and Marv several times. They usually chase you until you hit them with a trap or just avoid them altogether. There are other burglars too, but they all kinda look the same and don't really do much. You can take some of them down with weapons like baseballs or the rifle. When you do so, they burp and run away. There's one room in this house that I swear is filled with Teddy Fazbears. I don't know why I even thought of that, or why it is even worth mentioning, but there you go. These people must live in an absolute mansion. In one room they have rows of pinball machines, in another a ping pong table, and in another a bunch of VCRs and TVs. Once you've found a bunch of toys, you have to venture back into the basement again. This time, instead of rats and bats, you have to avoid tarantulas. This part, in my opinion at least, was easier than the basement section for the first level in the game. At the end you encounter your first boss, which I assume is Buzz's pet tarantula. You drop rocks on it until it is smashed dead, and then you can move on to the next stage. This boss feels like it was programmed by a 5th grader. Its pattern is so easy to avoid, and besides the novelty of having an actual boss battle in the game, it has no point whatsoever to even be here. The music in the game? It's average. It ranges from pretty bad, like the title screen music, to fairly decent, like the 16-bit mixes of classic Christmas songs, especially March of the Nutcracker. The next section of the house is the electronics wing. You collect as many television sets, stereos, VCRs, and speakers as you can. As a huge electronics buff, this is my favorite level in the game. It's just a lot of fun to look at, like the room filled with speakers. Tell me that wouldn't be cool to have in your house. This level also makes the only appearance of an actual location in the film, Buzz's room. At least I think it's his room. It has to be with all those shelves. This level is lots of fun to look at and even more fun to play. It's nothing marvelous, mind you, but for me, it's as good as this game gets, which really isn't actually saying all that much. Once you've collected all of the valuables, you retread familiar water as you for a 3rd time head to the basement and you have to avoid a slew of ghosts. It would probably be impossible to dodge all of them, but thankfully there is a bottle of soda pop nearby that Kevin can drink and make him invisible. Then you reach a giant ghost who is the boss. He's as easy as the tarantula boss, but before I move forward, I have just one small question. Why the hell is there a ghost in this game? Is it like the ghost of one of the robbers you killed? It makes absolutely no sense and just comes off as a stereotypical video game enemy. For crying out loud, why not make a mannequin come to life or something? Why a ghost? You move on to the final level after you defeat the ghost. The final level is long and boring. You collect valuables once again and then you return them to the basement for even more fun. The final boss of the game? Drumroll. It's a giant rat. Yup, that's it. After you lock the safe, Kevin's mom gets home, and you forgive her, I guess. It then shows the bandits get put in jail, and then the game ends. So yeah, that's Home Alone. Not the worst thing I've ever played, but it's still not very good. Nowadays, there's absolutely no reason to play it, and I can't even really think of a reason to play it back in 1992 when it came out. Basically, if you like Home Alone, watch the movie. This game can be skipped altogether, as it's really not all that great. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful Christmas, and thanks for sticking through the whole review.